This content is presented for educational, documentary, informational, and analytical purposes. This channel examines real-world criminal cases, investigations, court proceedings, and publicly available information to provide commentary, context, research, and discussion. This content may include discussions of crimes, violence, disturbing events, investigative materials, evidence, and other sensitive subject matter. Any such material is included only when relevant to the discussion and is not intended to glorify, encourage, promote, or sensationalize violence or criminal activity. Viewer discretion is advised. This video may contain portions of third-party materials, including publicly released records, video materials, news footage, interviews, documents, photographs, and other material. Certain materials may also originate from other creators and are used with attribution where applicable. These materials are included for purposes such as commentary, criticism, education, reporting, research, and analysis, with original commentary, explanation, and context added. The use of third-party materials is intended to be transformative and may fall under the principles of fair use as described in Section 107 of the U.S. Copyright Act. All individuals discussed are presumed innocent unless proven guilty in a court of law. Allegations, accusations, investigative materials, and witness statements should not be considered established facts unless confirmed through official legal proceedings. This channel does not intend to harass, defame, threaten, or target any individual. The purpose of this content is to examine cases, information, and events for analysis and discussion while maintaining respect for victims, families, investigators, and all individuals involved.
November 13, 2022.
911 location of your emergency.
Something is happening. Something's happening in my house. We don't know what.
What is the address of the emergency?
1122.
What is the rest of the address?
Oh, Kings Road.
Okay. And is that a house or an apartment?
It's a house.
Alaska Law Ambulance for unconsciousness, 1122 King Road. I copy. Multiple RPs on the phone advising a roommate on scene is passed out, not waking up, believes they got drunk last night, and states something about a male being in the room with them, trying to get further. Units responding, RPs advising the patient is not conscious, not breathing.
Copy, not conscious, not breathing. Moscow 46 up.
Where's she at? Yep, where's she at? Where's she at?
Yes.
Where at? Up here?
Up here, up here.
Slow down. Just come here. There's two. Looks like fatalities. Dude.
Copy.
13, I think we have a homicide.
Going up. Please start it.
We're on 34, going up. We got another. Moscow Police Department.
Dude. There are two right here.
Two college-age people appearing both to be deceased. Lots of blood.
Shut it down there.
Copy, thank you. 13, we have two additional deceased on the third floor.
Did they tell you anything? They were dressed out at 4 we were in the main room.
This is one of the...
Pretty much they were in the main room. I heard them dancing and laughing. Kaylee went upstairs and she screamed because someone's in the room. She ran downstairs. And And I kept calling her name and she wouldn't answer. And then I saw the guy. I actually locked the door and I ran downstairs. We don't know what's going on.
How much have you seen on that?
No, I don't really know. I just saw my friend when I called because we were so scared. We're like, can you please come help us? And that's all I saw. Told us not to go in. That man right there. That helped show you around.
There did go in there.
Yeah, and that's when he told us he needed to call the cops.
Okay, so before we go any further, I want to be clear about the purpose of this breakdown. What we are about to hear is the surviving witness, Dylan Mortensen's initial on-scene statement given in the immediate aftermath of this traumatic event. Now, this is when police first arrive on scene to that 911 call about an unconscious person. I just want to make this clear that this video is not about assigning guilt, intent, or drawing any conclusions. This is simply about analysis. We're going to take a look at what was said, what's clear, what's unclear, and what investigators would likely want to follow up on piece by piece. So let's begin with Dylan's first statement to police here.
Do you mind just waiting over there for me, please? Okay. Now I overheard you talking about last night.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, the more we know right now, the better. We can start this process.
Yeah.
Somebody will probably be revisiting this interview with you very soon. Again, okay? So you're probably going to have to retell the story quite a bit.
That's fine.
All right. What do you remember seeing? What started?
I remember I was in my room and I was trying to go to bed and I heard Kaylee, who ex-girlfriend, who also has a dog in her.
Real fast. Which one is your room?
Kaylee.
Which one is your room?
Oh.
What room are you in? You were in that room?
My room, not Xana's room. My room.
And your room is this one right here?
Next to the stairs. That one is Xana's room.
Second floor room.
Second floor.
Okay.
All I heard was I heard go upstairs. Like, okay, I'm gonna go to sleep now because she's going upstairs.
And you heard who go upstairs?
Kaylee and the dog Murphy.
And upstairs to the very top?
Yeah, that's where her room is.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden I heard her walking up. I heard her scream, and she ran downstairs because she saw someone. That's what I'm pretty sure she said. Someone's here, and she screamed and just ran downstairs. And I called for her name, but I jumped up and locked my door because I was so scared.
Okay, so right now, what we're going to see is we are going to see Dylan establishing timelines. Now, almost immediately, she's going to start describing to officers where her room is in proximity to the other roommate's room and the layout of the house. So we can now establish that Dylan is on the second floor and that she starts off by saying she recalls hearing her roommate Kaylee going up the stairs to go to bed. That's the last she'd seen Kaylee and heard from her. She heard her going up to go get ready for bed. And she specifically does remember hearing Kaylee's voice as well as Murphy, Kaylee's dog. Then suddenly she hears a scream, followed by what she believes is Kaylee running back down the stairs, descending from the third floor to the second floor. Now, she doesn't make it clear how many flights of stairs she believes Kaylee runs down to, but she does say she believes Kaylee says something along the lines of, "Someone's here." If we listen closely to Dylan, she uses two phrases: "I remember" and "I'm pretty sure." There's a mix of certainty in the things that she remembers and then uncertainty. That's critical. Investigators are going to want to rely on how well something is remembered, not just the story. So I think that it's going to be more important as time goes on for Dylan's account to be a little bit more precise, and I'm expecting police to ask her more follow-up questions to really get those small details that matter.
And I heard someone in the bathroom, and I heard her crying, and I heard some guy say that you're going to be okay, I'm going to help you. And I kept calling her name, but she wasn't answering. And then I opened the door for a second, and I saw this guy, and he was not insanely tall, but he was wearing all black and like this mask that was just covering his forehead and his mouth. And I locked the door and I called and I didn't know what to do.
This was at 4
4
this
a.m.
morning?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, moving into what Dylan hears next is crying in a bathroom, who, again, she believes may be her roommate, Kaylee. And she hears an unknown male voice saying, "You're going to be okay. I'm here to help you." She mentions hearing the dog barking, and clearly there's movement inside the house at this point. And she reiterates that it's 4 a.m. This seems to be a significant amount of activity and strange sounds for 4 a.m. Yet still, there's no call to 911 at this point. Instead, Dylan tries calling out to her roommate with no response. She opens her door briefly, and this is when she says that she sees the guy. And this is the most critical point here in her statement. She opens the door and sees a man dressed in black, wearing a mask, standing in her house at 4 a.m. He looks at her, but he doesn't say anything. He doesn't approach her. He doesn't interact with her. She closes her door and locks it after having a direct visual encounter with this masked man in all black at 4 a.m. in her home. But what I would want to know as an investigator is, how long was it? Was it seconds? 30 seconds? 2 seconds? How long did she have that door open? How well could she see him? And how were the lighting conditions?
And so then I just ran down to
You left here?
I left my room down to room. She's that one with the white blinds at the very bottom.
Okay.
I ran down there and we talked, and we just locked the door. We didn't think anything of it. We're like, nothing happens in Moscow, so we just like tried to go to bed. And then we woke up, and it was weird because none of our roommates were up, and we called all of them. They were not waking up, and so me and like, this is weird. So I called and to come over, and then that's when all this happened.
This is where we see a little tension in Dylan's statement. So on one hand, Dylan describes a very, very real sense of fear. She hears a scream, she hears crying, she hears a male voice that she doesn't recognize. She opens her bedroom door, and she sees an unknown masked man inside of her home. Her reaction in that immediate moment is to jump up and lock her door, retreat. She's scared. She calls for her roommates. This is consistent with someone who believes that there is something wrong, an imminent threat. But then her next decision completely shifts. Instead of calling 911, she leaves her room. She leaves that safety of that locked door to go downstairs to the first level, where she then locks herself in Bethany's room, and eventually they go to sleep. That contrast is really important because the behavior moves away from fear and self-protection to a decision that suggests that there's been a reduced danger at this point. She even explains part of that reasoning, saying that nothing ever happens in Moscow. So they chalk it up to, well, nothing bad happens here, so we can go to sleep. But at this point, they aren't able to reach the other roommates. They've heard. We know that Dylan has heard. We haven't heard from Bethany yet, but we know that Dylan has heard and seen someone. She has visually seen someone in her home at 4 a.m. From an investigation standpoint, I think this creates a question of, what did she believe was happening, right? What was happening that took her from fear to feeling like it was okay and safe enough for her to go to sleep without calling anyone? Because remember, as we now know, when she wakes up in the morning, there is a sense of fear because they haven't heard the roommates up. Now, this is a really important part too, and I think the language here is interesting. When Dylan mentions waking up that next morning, she says she went to Bethany's room and they just fell asleep after, I guess, chalking it up to nothing bad happens in Moscow. She said, when we woke up this morning and no one was waking up. No one was waking up. Now, again, this could just be dark foreshadowing, but I think that choice of words is dark because clearly we know that four roommates in that home did not wake up that morning. So I think that was an interesting choice of words, but I am interested to find out what made Dylan and Bethany feel safe enough to claim that they went to sleep.
All right, describe the guy that you saw.
I don't think he was a little bit taller than me, and I couldn't really see much of him, but I'm almost positive he was wearing a full black outfit, and he had this mask that was just over his forehead and over his mouth, and he didn't say anything to me, like, at all. I just shut the door and locked it, because I didn't know what to do, and I think he went out, like, the side door, the sliding door in the kitchen that goes out to the backyard.
Okay.
And then I didn't know anything else, so I called and I was like, I just need to come downstairs and find you because I don't know where anyone else is. And I called Maddie, I called Zana, I called Kaylee, no one would answer except...
Okay. She's saying this morning around 4, there's a guy, black mask, was in there, she didn't recognize him. She heard girls screaming upstairs. She got scared, locked herself in the room, and then the screaming all stopped. She's pretty sure that this masked person went out that back. Okay. And right now I'm getting all victim information. She knows the other 2 girls that are up there. I haven't told her who's deceased or anything like that. They have 4 people that are unaccounted for right now, which... Okay. Whose dog? Who owns a dog? Okay. You're doing great. You know, okay. I'm asking a lot of you, so I appreciate you. You're doing very well.
Do you know if the other 2 girls are upstairs or not?
Right now, what we got to do is we got to process this whole thing.
That makes sense.
I don't know what I'd be permitted to tell you
That's fine.
right
That's
now. Okay.
fine. I understand.
Okay, let's go back. I just want to make sure we're getting everything. So you're sure at about 4 this morning?
Yes, it was 4:10.
You first noticed a guy.
Well, I first noticed Kaylee go upstairs and scream and run downstairs.
So 4 this morning, went upstairs.
Yeah.
To the way top.
Yes, to her room with Murphy the dog.
Okay.
There is a very, very brief, important little moment here in the beginning of this next line of questioning. And this is when Dylan asks the police officer, "Do you know if the other 2 girls are upstairs?" This is a point where police haven't confirmed anything yet. They haven't told anyone what's going on yet. So that question itself, I find, is just worth noting. It suggests one of 2 things. Either 1, complete uncertainty. Dylan has no idea where her roommates are. She doesn't see them outside, and she hasn't heard from them since prior to that 4 a.m. time. Or it could mean that Dylan knows exactly where her roommates are, and she wants to see if the police know what happened or are willing to volunteer information.
You heard Kaylee scream?
I heard her scream and run as fast as she could downstairs, and she said someone's here.
She ran downstairs?
Yes, I could hear. You can hear everything pretty much. I heard her run downstairs really fast.
Dylan also makes a point to mention something, and that is that you can hear everything. And she even supports that with the fact that Kaylee running up and down the stairs, she could tell it was Kaylee. She could tell it was Murphy barking a lot. She heard crying. She heard the male voice speaking. And she was even able to pinpoint where she believed it was in the house, in the bathroom. She believed it was Kaylee. She heard Murphy, the dog. So we have a clear picture right now that sound does seem to travel pretty easily in the house. That makes this all more significant because it was all taking place. So if she heard it, it was likely the other roommates heard it,
and
right?
then I heard Murphy barking a lot.
Okay.
And then I heard her going to I think it was the bathroom, and I remember her sobbing, and I just remember hearing this guy's voice that I didn't recognize saying, "You're gonna be okay, I'm gonna help you," but it wasn't like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it wasn't in like a nice way, it was like a weird way, like a weird tone.
You're gonna be okay. I'm gonna help you.
Yeah.
And you didn't hear anything from Kaylee anymore at that
No,
point?
after that I didn't hear anything. So then I kept calling for her name. I called on my phone, I called Xana, Maddie, and Kaylee, none of them answered. So then I opened up the door to look, and that's when I saw the guy pass by. He looked at me, but he didn't come towards me or say anything, which was really confusing to me. I don't understand that. And I'm pretty sure he went out the side door.
After Dylan hears all of this, she then explains to the officer that she calls her roommates, and she lists them one by one. She tried calling Zana, she tried calling Maddie, and she tried calling Kaylee with no answer. That's when she opened the door again and sees the man. She comes face to face with him, and she's confused because he doesn't approach her or speak to her. And then she mentions that she believes he exits through the sliding door. I have two questions. Number one, where in this list of roommates that she called does she mention if she ever tried to call Bethany or Ethan? Number two, she mentions that she believes the intruder exited through the sliding door. Now, those sliding doors are located in the kitchen on the same level where her bedroom was. So my question would be, did she physically see him leave out that sliding door? Did she hear the door? How does she know that he exited it out that door? And this is where things start to become a little bit murky. She then mentions she called Bethany after she attempted multiple calls to the others. Now, I don't know if Bethany was included in that same original order or if she intentionally called only those three roommates and left Bethany for last. The order might seem small, but these little tiny nuanced details do all make a difference in the end, because I would want to know if she called Bethany as well. Now, I know that police will get phone records, but in a time like this, I think every little detail matters.
And then I called and said she thought maybe there was a fire or like a firework. We didn't know. She heard this loud noise and there was a light, I guess.
Did you hear like a pop, like a bang?
I don't know. Did you hear it bang?
It's what she heard.
Okay.
That's what she heard.
Okay, never mind. Just sit there. I didn't hear that. Yeah, I ever heard a bang. I didn't think anything about fire or firework.
Or
until
gunshot.
I told her. I don't think I heard anything of that, but I also was kind of in and out of it because I was so scared and I was really tired. And that's when I called and I told her, I need to come to your room because she was the only one that was answering me. So I just ran down there, and for a second I stopped and I saw Xana passed out, and I thought maybe she was just like sleeping or something. I didn't think anything because I was so out of it. And I went into the room and we just fell asleep. And then we woke up this morning and no one was waking up at all.
Another interesting point coming from Dylan is that she is recounting what Bethany told Dylan, what Bethany heard. And she mentions something like a firework or a flash. And the police officer is the actual person who says a gunshot or something. Now, this is actually super interesting and goes against what Dylan just said earlier about the acoustics in the house. She said you can hear everything. So we have Dylan, who is now saying she didn't hear a firework bang sound. But we do have Bethany, who we will hear from. But we're having her off to the side, kind of having this side conversation when Dylan is asking her, did you hear? What did you hear? Was it a firework? And now the police are going to put an end to that because they don't want people mixing up their stories and, thinking that you heard something because someone else did. But I find it really interesting that Dylan never mentioned hearing that, but Bethany did. And you would assume that that's a pretty loud sound. And they're only one floor apart in a house where apparently you can hear everything.
And we just fell asleep. And And then we woke up this morning and no one was waking up at all. Like, no one was answering, which was really weird because all of us wake up around like 9 or 10. And then I called the girl to come check. And he came here first. And I told him what happened. And then he looked in the room and he said he needed to get out and call the police.
Okay. The guy that you saw, I know it was dark, right? Or were there lights on in the house?
I think there were lights on in the house, I believe.
Okay.
Now, I want to talk about the most difficult part of this whole entire timeline and story from Dylan. When Dylan leaves her room and runs down to Bethany's, she would have to descend the second level staircase to get to the first floor. And on the way, she would have had to pass Xana's room. And she mentions that she sees Xana lying on the floor, passed out. She interprets it as she's sleeping on the floor, and she continues right past her. Now, I want to ask you a question, and I want you to put this question down in the comments with your answer. If you in your house at 4 a.m. heard a scream, heard crying, heard an unknown male voice, and you saw a man dressed in black wearing a mask inside of your house, you would be concerned enough to call your roommates? Now, if the concern was great enough to call your roommates at 4 a.m., moving past the fact that you would likely wake them up and you get no answer, I think the question is going to shift to if you're concerned enough to go down and call the roommates, leave your room and book it to run down to the only other roommate you can get a hold of's room. In that moment, when you physically come face to face with seeing one of your roommates lying on the ground in her bedroom, what would you do? Considering everything you've heard. I think this becomes a bigger question. Because clearly, again, Dylan contradicts herself. She's so scared, she's panicked, she doesn't know what's going on, she hears all of this commotion, she sees this man. Yet, in the same breath, she says she was out of it. She was scared, she was tired, she wasn't fully processing what she was seeing. That's really important because high-stress situations, people respond in different ways. Not everyone is going to react the same, but it introduces an important question. So, fear typically heightens your awareness. It triggers that adrenaline. It sharpens your focus. It's what keeps us alive as humans. If you've ever been really, really tired or even had a couple of cocktails and been buzzed and something really scared you, that adrenaline takes over and you wake up. It's like that miracle that happens. And so I find it really interesting that Dylan is teetering between both. She's describing being both highly afraid, but simultaneously out of it. That's something I think investigators would want to go a little bit deeper because it raises the question, were there drugs involved? Was there alcohol involved? We have college-age students. But are they impaired? What is going on to make you panicked in one moment and super calm while passing your roommate who's lying on the ground that easily? So it raises a question that if you believe something is wrong in your home and you see your roommate and friend on the floor, would you try to wake them up? Just to see if they were okay, to see if they heard anything, to see if they saw anything, to make sure that they weren't robbed, to make sure that something didn't happen to them. There's a man running around your house. I'm not saying that there's a correct response to this. People freeze up, people freak out. But I do think that that's something that police are going to want to look into. Because I think this brings into when this does go to trial, the reasonable person theory. And that is the theory of, in a courtroom, jurors are often asked to consider how well would a reasonable person respond to this situation. So, 4 a.m., in your house, you hear a scream, you hear crying, there's an unknown man. Your roommate is unresponsive on the floor. What would a reasonable person do in that scenario? Because that's what a jury is going to be looking at. So that's what makes this part of the statement so critical at this point. It isn't about just what Dylan saw. It's about how she interpreted it and how that translated into her fear and her emotions and how that all shaped all of the decisions that she made.
I don't really know what he looked like because he had a mask, but he wasn't like super tall.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'10". I think it was maybe my height an inch or two higher or lower. I can't really remember.
So about 6 foot.
I think so. Around there.
Okay. How was he built? Fat, skinny, stocky?
More like skinny, but like basketball player kind of skinny. Like not too skinny, but like almost fit skinny in a way. That's what I think. I don't know for sure.
And then the voice, he said, when he said those words, you didn't recognize that voice before.
I didn't recognize him or his voice. I mean, I also couldn't see him, but I didn't recognize that voice at all. Okay. Didn't even cross my mind if that could be.
Did you guys have a party last night too? Or?
Not tonight, but there was and we had like a formal thing beforehand. That was 2 days ago.
When the officer asks if they had a party here last night, it's really interesting the way Dylan answers. She says there wasn't a party here tonight. There was 2 nights ago. This is a weird way to answer a question. It could just be her mind going and it could be a million things, but equivocation comes to mind where she's telling the truth, but she's sort of in the same way dodging the actual time frame that's being asked about. It's kept vague. It could be time shifting intentionally or not intentionally. And it could be a situation where she's kind of shifting that timeline around to avoid addressing that specific night in question or that specific time. And we've seen this from Dylan other times in this specific interview, but I want to focus it here mostly.
Okay. Is there anything that popped out about that event that was concerning?
No, I mean, I went to his Ethan. He is with my friend Zana, and who are dating when Zana went there. I was there for a little bit, and then I went to my friend's house down the street, and then I came back home with my friend. Everything was fine, nothing weird at all, nothing suspicious until 4 a.m.
Okay. I don't think I have any more questions for you right now.
Okay, if you do, it's fine.
Somebody else will talk to you.
So that's good.
So let's grab that. Let's go back over there.
Okay, so we have reached the end of Dylan Mortensen's initial statement on scene. Now, she is the first witness that police have come across to speak to that survived this incident. And she is the only one that is going to kind of build the foundation of this timeline. Now, we're going to analyze Dylan's statement and all of her statements entirely, and we're going to build some framework around it because I think that this initial statement is the most important statement that she's going to give to police. It's going to be an imperfect timeline because human memory is not perfect and it's super complicated around stressful events like this. But the purpose here is just to go through the key points that stick out. What's consistent? What is not consistent? And what other questions do we have? So, number one, we see from time and time again, Dylan anchors all of the unusual activity to that 4 a.m. point. She recalls hearing the sounds, the running, the dog barking, the unknown male voice. She sees an unknown male wearing a mask, wearing all black, describing his build, describing where she sees him. Now, a lot of the timeline is going to be compared against the phone records when they get them, the digital activity, the surveillance, witness statements, and forensic evidence that they collect. But Right now, Dylan's first initial statement is going to give investigators the first glimpse as to what could have been happening. She makes a couple of really important details that I want to note for our next interview. She states that you can hear everything in the house, supporting that by Kaylee moving up and down the stairs and screaming. Also with the crying, she can pinpoint where she believes the crying was coming from. Bathroom, and she believes it was Kaylee. So by her establishing that you can hear everything, we know about the acoustics in the home. We know that if Dylan heard this, it's likely other roommates in the house heard this. We also get the description of this unknown male. And this is not a lot to go off of. It's very vague. We know it's a masked person somewhere around 6 feet, give or take, wearing all black, wearing a mask covering the forehead and the mouth, who is athletic and slim. We don't know anything else about this person. We don't know if they know Dylan. We don't know if they don't know Dylan. Dylan could not really make any other significant notations to the appearance. So we don't really have a good description, but it's a start. Investigators are still going to rely on that physical evidence at the scene, surveillance, and potential suspects, right? So we know at this point that Dylan opened the door and saw this male. And he looked at her, but he didn't approach her. He didn't talk to her. And that confused her. She seems like she just kept her cool. How long, I would want to know, was this encounter? Was she looking at him for 3 seconds versus 30 seconds versus 90 seconds? How far away was he? What lighting in there was there to be able to see him? How clear did she see him? Was it straight on? Was she looking eye to eye? Was it peripheral? And where was he traveling when she saw him? Because I'd want to know exactly how she was standing, where she was standing, because she didn't indicate that she saw him exit out the slider door. She said she thinks he went out the slider door, but I'd want to know how she thinks that and why. There's definitely clarification needed, like how was she that petrified and then able to go to sleep so easily after seeing an unknown masked man in her house? I also would want to know a little bit more about the timeline leading up, because it seems like she jumped to that 4 a.m. timeline. We don't really know what happened earlier than that. And again, I would want to touch on the order of her calling the roommates. We can, again, get phone records, but she mentioned specifically calling Zana, Maddie, and Kaylee, but delays in mentioning calling Bethany until the very end, right before she ran down to her bedroom. I would want to know the sequence of who she called. I would think that who she called would be maybe the order of who she thought was in trouble or why she would call them first. Closeness, friendship. I would want to know that order. And I would also want to establish a baseline of what activities in the house on a normal Saturday night into a Sunday morning were like. If it was a party house and people were passing out on the ground and you had friends of friends roaming through the house at different hours of the morning hours, then it wouldn't really be something that would alarm Dylan, seeing a man walking around. But even in a party house, even during 2022, I have a hard time believing someone would be roaming around the house with a mask covering their face. So, anyway, we will get to some of those hopefully in the next interviews. I will go ahead and schedule another video to come out, and we will take a look at additional interviews before moving on. We are going to cover every single piece of evidence that we can get our hands on in this case. It is going to be long. It is going to be daunting, but I think it'll be worth it to try to see if we can put these pieces together. Now, I just want to recap again what really stands out. Dylan seeing her roommate Zana on the floor, believing she might have been passed out. Was the delay in not hearing from Zana at 8 or 9 in the morning when they woke up and didn't hear from Zana? Did they think that she was still passed out? Dylan seeing her the night before
that really puts a question in my mind why she didn't just attempt to go up that flight of stairs and check on Xana that morning when it was light out and they were sure no one was in the house. What is really, really questionable to me is calling other people to check. It just makes me wonder if Dylan saw something, maybe didn't know if what she saw was real or not, or did she know exactly what happened and didn't want to be the one to discover it? There's a lot of things that stand out here, and I think we're going to have a lot of questions moving forward. If you're familiar with the case, you may already know what we find out, but I think that this is going to be a really good start to the investigation. So, in our next video, we're going to do our second witness interview, and that is the second surviving roommate, Bethany Funk. We'll go ahead and get her initial on-scene statement, and then we'll start breaking down all of the interviews and body cam. Okay, let's quickly take a look at the first written report of the verbal account that Dylan Mortensen gave to the responding officer. This is going to be the first officer on scene, and this can be found in the public listed documents from the Moscow Police Department Supplemental Narrative Report. This is going to be page 1, and this is going to be the report from Mitch Nunes. He was the first responding initial officer on scene. We're going to go ahead and read this entire report in another video, but right now we're just going to focus on the first person that the officer spoke to who was alive in that home. Okay, so I walked outside and began interviewing Dylan. Dylan told me at approximately 0400 hours, she heard a voice scream and believed it to be Kaylee. Dylan said she heard Kaylee scream and announce there was somebody inside the residence. Dylan said she could hear Kaylee run from the 3rd floor down the stairs to the 2nd floor in the northwest bedroom. Dylan said she locked herself in her bedroom and continued to hear the commotion. Dylan said eventually she stopped hearing a struggle and heard a male voice say, "You're going to be fine. I'm going to help you." Dylan said she did not recognize the male's voice. Dylan said after a few minutes, she peeked out of her bedroom and observed a male described as approximately 6 foot tall, slim build, with a black ski mask, leave the 2nd floor patio area. The patio door was likely left open as it was found upon my arrival. Okay, couple of things. Number 1, Dylan said she thinks that the intruder left through the slider door, but she didn't actually state yet that she saw him, so we don't know if she physically saw him or just heard him. Another thing to note is this seems to be a really condensed version, broken down of what she told him. So I'm hopeful that in the next series of interviews that we get with Dylan, we get more details and we get follow-up questions. This is going to be a really, really in-depth breakdown. So if you are new to the case, I would love to know your thoughts initially, what your first impression is. Now, like I said, I'm going to be breaking this down piece by piece, bit by bit, and we're going to go over every piece of possible information that we can get and source publicly available. There are a number of YouTube channels who have been kind enough to share their FOIA requests. So we will be going over that. I will be giving all of the credit to the channels that have provided different pieces, but majority of the information that we are going to go off of is going to be the publicly available information that has come out between 2022 and now. So in the next video, we're going to go on into more interviews, speak to more witnesses, and review more reports. We are going to get heavy into the reports probably next week. So if you want to follow along, I would suggest going to the sources that I have linked in the description box to download the information available publicly by the courts and the Moscow Police Department, as well as Idaho State Police. All right, if you've enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I will talk to you in the next one. Have a great day.